Hi folks, I've come out into the garden to give you an update on pop-up projects in terms of like literally what we're doing, but also where we're going with them next, and to answer a couple of questions that have come up over the last week or so. So first of all, simply an update. So to date, we've delivered the first pop-up project, which was product suggestions, Bash and Anton. We've got 2 weeks into the second pop-up project, which was the changing the hotel search results so that they are more like streaming results, which was Ibrahim and Michael. And then having got to the end of that, we've made a decision to continue for the third week to actually get it into a fit state to go live. So those are the two pop-up projects that have happened, and then there's another one that will be kicking off, which is an even shorter one, which is just to do a very experimental look at putting sponsored results onto hotel results to see how customers react to that. So that's the third one that's a pure pop-up project. Okay, alongside that, which is sort of cause a bit of confusion, but just to explain, the extensions team have been working on pricing plans, and we've done that in a similar sort of style. In other words, it's come up very last minute. So we've got a very brief spec, and we've just said, right, we're going to get something that we can demonstrate in a week, and then we're probably going to get the whole thing complete over the course of 2 weeks. So it's just the extensions team, but it's been done in the same style. And then similarly, very soon, the hotels team are going to do a first spike of product substitution, again in the same way as in let's get something live in quickly in a week or two. And they're going to, I think probably Michael's going to do that again, but they're going to borrow Ed from the bookings team, just because again it's a cross-team project. Product substitution has a lot of impacts on the checkout process, so it makes sense to mix in someone from the bookings team. So that's everything that's going on in the pop-up space at the moment. And as I say, so some of them are definitely sort of pop-up projects triggered by Simon, where we're just getting a couple of volunteers. Others are more in or around one team. Okay. So meanwhile, what have we learned so far? Well, kind of summarizing what I've heard from different engineers and different people is basically the pop-up projects so far, the product suggestions and hotel search, have been really hard work, but also extremely rewarding work to actually for a couple of engineers to see what they can actually achieve in a couple of weeks if they put their mind to just cutting through everything else and getting something out there. So that's really cool. And what we're going to do off the back of these first two pop-up projects in particular is obviously sit down and have a retro. And I think that because the retro for the product suggestions got delayed by a week because of availability, it makes a lot of sense actually for the retro to be from both of these projects so that they can actually work out what common ground they have. Yeah, so we'll do a retro and use that as an opportunity to capture what was different about the way these projects were run from a product perspective, as well as from an engineering perspective. You know, how the stories were treated differently, as well as how the actual solution was put together differently to be able to achieve the kind of deadline. And so I'm going to try and not say anything that preempts that retro, because that's going to be really important. But looking ahead, what are some of the things that we're going to do off the back of this? Okay, so thing one is we definitely are planning to continue to have this stream of small innovation projects where we rotate engineers onto them. So product suggestions, hotel search, ad service, and then I know Simon has some more ideas. The general theme of these ideas seems to be around looking for new sources of revenue for Travel.Cloud at the moment, but the theme will change. But yeah, so we're definitely going to continue to have this stream of pop-up projects. In other words, across the whole department, there'll always be a couple of engineers working on a pop-up project, and I want that to be a rotating, volunteers ideally, because, okay, I know of a whole bunch of companies out there that have, at some point they decide, hey, we need an innovations team. We're going to have a team that just does innovative projects. And they're lucky guys. They get to do all the exciting projects. And then once they've done the exciting bit at the beginning, what happens? They throw it over the wall to some other team who just then have to look after it, while this special innovations team get on with the next exciting project. That sounds miserable. It might take a bit more management for us in terms of managing engineers leaving teams and coming back to teams to do these projects, but it's a lot healthier because different engineers get to do these innovative pop-ups. And also, more particularly, and to answer Chris's question that he asked in OpenShop, what I want to make sure is that either one of the engineers from the most appropriate team works on the pop-up. So like hotel search, Michael's from the hotels team. That's handy. He's worked on that, so he can bring that work back into his team. Or if it's entirely new, like product suggestions, which doesn't have a natural home, it's a brand new service, we pick one of the engineers that was on that project and they bring that new thing back into their team to own it. So yes, that's right. Anton did product suggestions, and so for the time being, the flights team own product suggestions is my decision, and it's a good place for it to live because obviously it's search related, it's product related, so it should belong in one of those teams or shared by those pioneer teams. So that's the answer to the question of ownership. Okay, whoever works on these pop-up projects, one of the engineers working on it hopefully will be most relevant anyway, but one way or another will bring that back into their team so that, you know, somebody who built it continues to own it. And I say, and that's way healthier than having a special innovations team, because they'll never look after the things they build anyway. As I say, it will get thrown over the fence to someone else, which is unfair. Right, so that's one thing. We like the outcome of these projects, and so we want to continue doing them. The other reason why, by the way, it needs to be a rotating set of engineers is because the guys that I've talked to said it was really great, but it was hard work. So it's not something you would want to do week in, week out. You'd want to do one of these projects and then take a breather. So again, it makes sense to rotate people. Okay. Second outcome that I really want, and I alluded to this when I said what we're doing in the extensions team and what we're doing with product substitution. I also want this way of picking certain projects and saying, let's just see what we can get done in 2 weeks. I want to bring that back into the teams as well, so that each team and product owner are selecting certain projects and doing that in the same way. Okay. So feel free. But again, this is an important part of doing this retro, so that the Bash and Anton and Ibrahim and Michael can share some of their learnings from those projects with everyone, so that we can all see like the kind of behaviors that help when you've got to deliver stuff fast. And again, as I say, it's not going to be our new way of working. It's to bring this ability to be very responsive and deliver something fast into the mix. Yeah. So some projects we can work like this. Other projects will work in the way that we usually work. Cool. And kind of little secret, if every team gets superb at doing this, then eventually we might not need an innovation stream, an innovation zone. It might be that any new idea that Simon comes up with and says, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did blah? A team could put up their hand and say, no problem, Simon, chuck it our way and we'll get you something live in 2 weeks. And at that point, you know, we're all doing it ourselves and there's no need for a separate work stream. But I think that's a little way off in the future. Let's get good at the practice first. And the third thing that I'd like to come out of this retro is also, in the spirit of continuous improvement, to look at the ways in which the engineers work differently to deliver these projects, and to examine whether there's any fat in our current way of normally working. In other words, is there any room for improvement in our existing development process that's highlighted by these pop-up projects. So I'd like that to happen as well. But again, that's in this kind of spirit of continuous improvement. We may not find anything, but we may. We should have our mind open to it. So really important to have this retro happen and get that out of it. But I hope that's cleared up the whole topic of pop-up projects. I'd really like to get people sticking up their hand of volunteering. Again, another little secret, although when you're thinking about your team and you're thinking about all the stuff that you've got on in your backlog, then obviously everything feels crucially important to you, and it is. But me with my sort of senior leadership hat on and looking big picture across the entire department and all the stuff we're working on, and you know, the fate and future of the company and the business, then one or two engineers stepping out of their team for a couple of weeks to work on an interesting project, and that causing, you know, perhaps the team then takes an extra week to deliver the next feature that they're working on. In the big picture, we can cope with that. So, you know, don't be afraid to volunteer, and team leaders, don't be afraid to say to engineers, hey, if you want to go and do that, that's cool. We'll cope. We'll just, you know, the due date will go back a little bit on the thing we're working on, but it's actually, the product owner's been able to check with the stakeholders, and it's not going to be a big deal. So it will be cool. But as I say, this stream of innovative projects is going to happen. So it's going to always be the case that if nobody steps up in the first couple of days and says, yeah, I'm happy to work on that project, then we'll just have to pick a couple of engineers, because these are important experiments that we are determined to try, because it's going to drive the product forward and drive the business forward. I think that was all I wanted to say on that. Yeah, so any more questions on pop-up projects or anything around that topic, please drop them into OpenShop. Otherwise, I hope this has been useful. It was a bit longer than 10 minutes, but what a lovely sunny day. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.